All right, welcome back. This is a severe weather analysis from March 30th, 2025. Probably gonna make this video a little bit quick today because I'm gonna go ahead and get out here and get ready for storm chasing this afternoon. But today we have a large, pretty much wind-driven enhanced risk across parts of the Midwest, all the way up into Michigan, to western Ohio, all the way down in parts of the deep south, and to Texas, with a large slight risk surrounding that and a marsh risk around that. We have a 10% hatch risk of tornadoes today, mostly across the West Tennessee, northern Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, into Kentucky and Illinois and Indiana today. Large 45% wind risk around that, all the way up to southern Michigan, down into Mississippi. I wouldn't be surprised as the day goes on and we have more confidence in where our biggest wind risk will be to have not necessarily a high risk, but an enhanced hatched area of maybe hurricane force wind gust. It's definitely not out of the possibility. We have a 30% hatch tail risk today that might be expanded in the parts of this way, parts east to more of Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana area. Would not be surprised to see that today. Our tornado risk, though, is kind of interesting. I don't see us getting a moderate risk tornado risk like I did last night. I thought we might have a moderate risk around this area. But they haven't issued that yet. They probably won't issue that if they haven't issued it today. But I personally see it maybe a slightly higher risk across this area. I'm going to draw a circle here, all the way up to Evansville, near Nashville, and then go down in a little bit of Mississippi and draw a big circle like that. I could personally see maybe even maybe a little higher than a 10% out there today. If you can't go to 15%, I'd say 13, maybe 14%. But let's go ahead and pull up just predicted precipitation by the 12Z HRR. Excuse me. If I can get this to load. Excuse me, my internet is being a crap today. Being a pretty big problem. I don't really have great internet. It's not my fault. Let's see. Here's our simulated reflectivity. It's definitely picking up on this precipitation we have out here, Missouri. It's expecting that to initiate by the time it hits St. Louis and grow upscale to more of a cluster / MCS as it goes eastward. That's why we have mainly a wind risk across the Midwest today. Possibly a supercellular, more isolated mode behind that, with supercells here in West Tennessee and Kentucky, with possibly a supercell sparking up somewhere in Arkansas. These will move east, creating more of a cluster, but with embedded supercells in them as they progress eastward into the night, eventually moving off into tomorrow's wind risk, which may have an isolated tornado risk with it as well. But we'll go ahead and pull up, just to give you an idea of how unstable the atmosphere is. We'll go ahead and pull up the mean layer Cape predicted by this run, and it's definitely picking up on we already have 1,000 joules per kilogram making its way up into Michigan this morning. It's showing anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 across these more southern risk areas. Definitely possible this morning. We'll go ahead and pull up our meso analysis. This is what the Storm Prediction Center thinks for our biggest possibility for any supercells will be in this Missouri corridor down into Tennessee here. Go a few hours ahead. It's definitely showing 2,000 mixed layer. A little tongue of 2,000 making its way in here. We go to 6 hours out, 2,000 is pretty much widespread as we have supercells pushing through this area. If this is the 10 o'clock, this is more like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So keep an eye out for this. Storms will move eastward throughout tonight. So if you're in East Tennessee and northern Alabama, keep an eye out for the leftovers from this event could still produce damaging winds and maybe even a tornado or two. Go ahead and pull up visible satellite this morning. We have some breaking in the clouds, especially across here in southern Missouri into West Tennessee and western Kentucky. That's going to allow for some significant surface heating, even if we do have a substantial cloud cover in some of these parts down in here. Breaks in the clouds, even just for like a 30-minute break every once in a while, will significantly increase that surface temperature. Since it is March and the sun's pretty strong this time of the year, it doesn't take much sunlight to really make the atmosphere unstable. We'll go ahead and pull up our surface observations for this morning. You can see we have a large, expansive cold front / dry line making its way through this way. Pretty much, I'd draw it anywhere. You get 60s and 40s here, so we'll draw it down this way. 60s, 50s here, somewhere through this little bit less noticeable through Missouri here. It gets a little bit more noticeable. We got this wind shift here. Somewhere through in here is a cold front. You can see that we already have 70s over high 60s dew points, 70 over 68 here in Union City, just south of St. Louis, 73 over 67, very impressive. Memphis, 69 over 65, impressive. Little Rock, 72 over 66. Yeah, so this is some impressive morning dew points out here. So moisture is definitely not a problem today. And from these soundings I'm about to show, moisture is definitely deep in the atmosphere. Even as far north as Chicago, moisture's pretty substantial, 66 over 62. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting risk today. Bulk shear, maybe a tongue near 60 knots, making its way through our risk area as the day goes on. At the very least 50 knots throughout most of our tornadic area will support supercells and organized clusters. So storms should have no problem at least organizing throughout the day. Just question over convective mode. That's probably why our tornado risk at the moment isn't as high as it really could be. I mean, I really could see a 15% out here if we could just have a definite isolated supercell show up on every run. If we had some isolated supercells on every single run out in this area, a little small 15% could very well be issued for this area. I'd definitely keep an eye out here, because keep an eye out farther north though. It's definitely possible, and farther south. But definitely keep an eye out right here. Pretty much where they have their 10% risk, I would draw a small area, slightly higher chances, maybe 15% at the moment. I wouldn't really say, but don't run everything off those percents. The Storm Prediction Center issues, because 10% risk. That's what Joplin happened on. So if you know anything about Joplin, you can understand that any tornado risk, when it gets up to this point, should be taken seriously and should always be taken seriously. This day could very well bust and we just get a few storms producing hail. I mean, that happens all the time. Or it could overperform. We could get maybe a violent tornado. You just never truly know when it comes to things like this. But at the very least today, some tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds. Most likely a strong tornado or two somewhere within this area. And probably widespread damaging winds at this point. If they do issue a moderate risk, it will likely be for a wind risk, maybe somewhere up in here or even farther south. Hail risk will definitely be expanded, in my opinion, personally, farther east. Let's go ahead and pull up some predicted soundings. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and go back and pull up some soundings. I want to go ahead and show the extent of our widespread moisture today, because the past few risks we've had, moisture has been one of the things that were the fail risk the past few days. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and pull up the observed soundings. We'll go ahead and go to this morning. That was last night, so we'll go this morning. This is Little Rock. I'm going to pull up. Have a capping inversion, but definitely sufficient moisture here. Deep moisture. Already some cape developing and some instability. A cap, though, here should allow for us to have more instability, allow that moisture and heat to kind of develop better before we get any storms. But even if we did have a storm in this environment, 72 over 67 with mixed layer cape already around 500, that'll probably increase throughout the day. And surface cape near 2,000 already. I mean, we could definitely have a strong storm even with this profile. This wind chill profile is wonky. I expect that to change as the surface low matures throughout the day. Surface winds and mid-level winds should even out and become more less backed throughout the day. Still showing some backing here. We might have a little bit of backing later on in the day, but at most that'll probably just create more of a splitting, messier mode. It's another reason we don't have a moderate risk for tornadoes, but I still think this could straighten out in some places, and level of shear is going to increase throughout the day. That's just how it goes. A lot of times in the morning, low level of shear is a little bit underdone because, especially out in the plains, low level shear just naturally get the low level jet increases at nighttime. At some places, cool faster than others. But we'll go ahead and pull up a predicted sounding here. Not predicted sound. This is observed soundings. We're going to pull up an observed sounding for Central Illinois here. You can definitely see. Excuse me. You can definitely see the wind shear profile. Very messy, but we have a decent low-level wind shear profile making its way here. You have some curvature in the low levels already this early on. Very moist atmosphere. Moisture is making its way pretty deep in the atmosphere. Might even have some fog in this part. That might be why we have such a good dew point look over here. But none of the instability at the moment. I expect that to change for the next few hours 1,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer CAPE is probably what we'll see here out in central Illinois. I mean, tornadoes will definitely be possible. Even though this sounding isn't very impressive, I still see tornadoes being possible out here before it upgrows, upscale into more of a linear mode. Let's see. We'll go ahead and pull up the NAM, get a predicted sounding out here. Keep in mind, so far the south, I see more of a hail risk, but tornadoes could happen all the way down south into Louisiana and Texas today, so I wouldn't throw that out of the question. You can see that the NAM shows 3,000 in mixed layer, making its way along the Mississippi Delta all the way up here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a strong tornado, maybe even a family of strong tornadoes with any isolated supercell that develops in this area. Tornado risk probably heightened throughout here. Wind risk is going to be the highest, I feel like, up here. If they're going to issue a moderate risk, it's going to be for wind up here. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily to see a moderate risk down here if we continue to see some of these signals for tornadoes. It's a little too late in the day for them to be thinking about that. I think they'll stick with that 10%, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a 15% being risked out here. Being issued out here. Let's go ahead and pull up the most unstable we can. So this will be somewhere out here in Arkansas and in Tennessee. This is what our most unstable sounding might look like. This is just a predicted sounding. I'll go ahead and find the times for this. This is mid-afternoon, pretty much, probably around 3 o'clock. Not doing a good job with that wind shear profile. It's underdoing that low-level wind shear by a lot. A lot of these things are underdoing that low-level wind shear, but very unstable. At the very least, this looks like a large hail sounding. That's probably why we have a 30% hatch risk out here, because large hail might be the biggest thing we have to deal with in these parts today. But I still see a good tornado chance here, especially as low-level winds increase later on in the atmosphere about 4 or 5 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and go eastward. We'll go ahead and go 2 hours ahead here. Take a central western Tennessee sounding here, because this might be our big tornado risk area. And we'll go ahead and take a sounding farther north in places like Indiana for our wind risk today. We'll go ahead and go. This is early afternoon. This might be just a little bit after this video comes out. Go ahead and see a predicted sounding here. It's showing 2,000 possible making its way into Illinois. I wouldn't be surprised. Some parts of Illinois could be that high. We'll go ahead and look at the sounding for Tennessee here. See, this is what's concerning me. This is what I'm talking about. Low-level shear could really increase. If we get this type of low-level shear increase throughout the evening, I mean, it does say PDS tornado over here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get this much low-level shear like the NAM is showing. We could have a supercell over here or two producing possibly even up to violent intensity. I don't like saying that because I'm going to get some hate for it, but it's not impossible today. So keep an eye out for that. Definitely some strong tornadoes in this region are very much so possible. And at the very least, very large hail and extreme damaging winds are going to be possible. I mean, that's a really good instability. Good moisture. Maybe a little bit of a cap here, but storms should be overcome that. Impressive. Very impressive. We'll go ahead and pull up a central Illinois sounding for that wind event that I'm predicting out here. Still good temperature dew point spreads for tornadoes. Low-level shear is there. It's present. Tornadoes possible before this upscales into a squall line kind of thing. Maybe a tornado or two, possibly even strong. You never know. Some convergent boundaries at the surface could really create a strong tornado this far north. Would not be surprised. Lots of surface instability. Mixed layer underdoing it, maybe overdoing the instability a tad bit actually overall. But I could see this happening. Let's keep an eye out here in central Illinois with those first storms. And it's definitely underdoing that first sounding we took in Arkansas near Missouri here. Low of wind shear might be a little higher than it is here, so keep an eye out for early on tornadoes there in Missouri and Arkansas. West Tennessee, West Kentucky might be under the gun for something more significant, still unsure at this time. Definitely a very large, expansive wind risk farther north in the Midwest. I wouldn't be surprised to see some hurricane wind force gusts being measured out here, and some strong tornadoes embedded in this line are not impossible, even far north as personally in North Indiana. this risk could be just, wind and hail, or it could be possible widespread strong and tornadoes in some of these places, and maybe, a violent tornado. It's not impossible on a day like this. So keep your eyes out up here. We'll go ahead and take a quick look farther south, because I do not include these people very much, and this is important to look at this part of the risk area. Lots of instability down here in Texas throughout this afternoon. Mostly large hail down here. That's what I'm more worried about, even to the Louisiana, Mississippi area. I mean, I'm sure the significant tornado parameter does make it its way down south here. Yeah, maybe a little tongue of higher tornado potential. Go ahead and pull up a sounding for northern Louisiana. Just get a quick look. I don't see strong tornadoes making their way down here, but a tornado or two and some very large hail would not surprise me whatsoever down here, especially with these temperatures. Dew point spreads might be higher. NAM's underdoing these temperatures throughout, as usual. I'm betting mid-80s possible down here in Texas with 60-degree dew points. Should create a sufficiently unstable environment for large hail. It's even showing 70 dew points down here, so we might have a tornado risk. Oh yeah, if this comes to fruition here, 10% might even be expanded down here. I wouldn't be surprised if that much instability. Even though wind shear's not as impressive, it's still impressive enough for a good tornado or two. But keep an eye out down south. Keep an eye out up north. They might expand their risk area. Pretty much right in the dead center of our 10% zone today. I'd keep an eye out for even a higher possibility being issued. That's it for today. Just a quick something. Tomorrow might do an early morning thing about tomorrow's risk down here, and I'll talk about the possible tornado outbreak next Wednesday and Thursday. So, and hopefully after all this comes through this week, we might have a week of cooler weather and quieter weather. But then I got a feeling April's going to ramp back up later on this month. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in.